I'm Lisa Eubanks. I'm the director of the Cherokee Regional Library System. I've been here for 30 years. I've worked in children's services. I've worked in just about every aspect of the library. Today we're going to talk about language nutrition. Nutrition is important, and I know that you've heard often about how important it is to eat healthy, to get your fruits and your vegetables in. Don't eat too many carbs, keep your sugar count low. But we're not going to talk about food nutrition today. We're going to talk about language nutrition and how important it is for you, if you're a father, if you're a mother, if you have children, to feed your children language nutrition and to make sure that you're making sure their brains are being fed. Because just as fruits and vegetables and proteins are important for your body, it's important to put language into your baby's brain at a very early age. So nourishment in language is important because it gives your child a foundation for reading that's going to come in handy for them later on. And they can't learn to read if they don't have words and they're not exposed to words. So words are important, and getting that into your baby and into your child at a very early age is important. So for those of you who have children at home, or maybe you're getting ready to start a family, we're going to talk today about how important it is at a very early age to give them a secret weapon that's going to all but ensure that they will be successful in life. That secret weapon is something very simple and yet so important, and it's reading. And we're going to talk about how to get your child to read and why having a child that reads is so important to their success. So why is reading so important? The data shows that children who are not reading by the time they get into third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out. Students that drop out of high school and they don't graduate, they're 4 times more likely to end up in the prison system and to be incarcerated than those who do graduate. So it shows how very important it is to get your child reading and reading on grade level by third grade. That will keep them from dropping out, and high school dropouts then are more likely to be incarcerated. So it's very important that you have your child reading by third grade. Why third grade? Third grade is important because up to that point, your child is at home, they're hearing words, they're getting to pre-K, you may be putting them in a 2 or 3-year-old program. They're going to end up in kindergarten and first grade, and all those teachers and everyone that's teaching them is teaching them how to read. So by the time they get to third grade, they learn how to read, and from that point forward, they're reading to learn. And everything they learn is coming through reading. So you can see that if you've got a child who enters third grade and they can't read, at that point, every other student's moving forward in their education and learning. And a child that doesn't know how to read, they're stuck. They're stuck there, they're not able to move forward, and they're hindered, and they're going to get into that statistic that may be more likely to drop out. They're going to be frustrated. So it's very important that you get your child to the point in third grade where they're reading, so at that point then they can read to learn. So what can we do as parents? Well, first of all, you're the first teacher that your child has. So when they're a baby, when they're little and they're a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, you're teaching them whether you realize it or not. So just know that there are things that you can do to help get them reading by third grade. And we're going to talk about 3 things specifically that I think will be helpful to you as a new parent or a parent of an infant or a toddler that you can do. And the 3 things we're going to talk about: interacting with your child, talking with your child, and then reading to your child. So let's start off with interaction. It's important to interact with your baby from the day they're born. The day you bring that baby home from the hospital, you should be talking to that baby and interacting. Interaction is important because it's going to start their brains to develop, and it's exposing them to words and to the world. So interact with your baby, and don't think just because they're an infant and they're tiny that it's not appropriate to interact. So when interacting with your child can take the form of many different things. Looking at your baby, making eye contact with your baby, chatting, baby talk, touching your baby, handling your baby, the arms, the face, touching its little toes, playing peekaboo with your baby, doing something to change that baby's expression. And you know when babies can first physically focus their eyes on you. They start to react with their mouths and with their eyes. And so that's interaction. In fact, interaction is so important that I'm going to show you a video clip that shows you just how important interaction is, and even more so how lack of interaction and what that can do to your infant.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Okay, that was hard to watch, wasn't it? It was really hard at the end to watch what happened when the mom didn't interact. But did you notice at the beginning when she was interacting with her baby, what was she doing? She was touching her baby's face, and she was handling it. She was rubbing her hands down the arms of the baby, and she played with the toes, and she talked, and the baby responded. Did you see how the baby responded to its mom? It even tried to talk. Now, that baby was a year old, and it wasn't able to physically say words, but it made a noise, and it said, "Da," or made a noise, and then it pointed. And did you see how the mom followed the baby when it pointed? There was a conversation going on, even though there were not a lot of words being spoken by that baby. But that mom reacted and interacted with that baby. And then did you see what happened when the mom stopped interacting? And how the baby was frustrated, and it did all the things that it knew to communicate, because for a baby, that is communication. That interaction is the only way it knows to communicate. It tried all the things that it knew to do to interact with that mom. It did the same pointing, and then when that didn't work and they didn't get that communication back and that interaction back, the baby got agitated and the baby cried, and you could see it on its face. And so when babies at that age, before they can communicate, the interaction stops, then they'll try other things to interact with those around them, and it's usually not positive. You saw the screeching and the squealing, and you've probably been in the grocery store before and you've seen a child melt down and pitch a temper tantrum, and basically they're trying to get their parents' attention, and they're trying different things and trying negative things. So it's important to interact with your baby early and often. And interacting with your baby leads to the second point that gets us to that third level of reading, and that's talking. So when you're interacting with your baby, especially an infant, it's a lot of silly talk and it's a lot of sounds and touching. But then we're going to move into talking, and talking is really important too. And when I get ready to talk about the number of words you should use, I like to think about this analogy with fitness. I don't know if you're familiar with a Fitbit. A lot of people wear them on their wrists. It's a device that monitors your steps and your activity. And medical professionals have said that there's a certain level of movement and walking that we should do in order to be healthy and to be fit. There's a certain level and number of words that you need to expose your child or your baby to in order for their brains to develop and for that language nutrition to be there for them in the long run. So studies have shown that those that live in poverty, their children are typically exposed to 500 to 600 words an hour. If you move on up to maybe middle class, there's about 1,200 words that are being spoken in front of a baby or a child. But if you go all the way to the next level, and that's a professional level, and in that home, there are over 2,000 words that are being spoken in an hour. That's close to 30,000 words in a day. So if you want to look at the 20 to 30,000 word as a good place in which to aim to expose your child to words, I think that's what I'd like for us to try to concentrate on today. And how to do that, how to get that many words in a day. It might not come naturally to you. So we're going to talk about a couple of ways to do that. But first, let's watch this clip that really demonstrates the importance of talking with your baby.
All parents want the best for their baby, and we know healthy food helps grow a healthy baby. But to grow a healthy brain, babies need more. Babies need lots of loving words. A baby's brain grows super fast. Research shows that the amount of loving words a baby hears in the first 3 years of life can make a big difference. Meet baby Ella. Ella's mom, dad, grandma, and sister all shower her with lots of loving words and encouragement, and every word she hears helps her brain grow. By talking, reading, and singing with Ella, everyone is helping her develop an essential life skill, the ability to read by 3rd grade. And once Ella learns to read, she'll be ready and able to learn anything she wants. But what if Ella doesn't get lots of loving words as a baby? Without a steady diet of loving words, Ella may only know half the words of her friends, which will make her feel lost and behind. Without knowing as many words, it will be harder for Ella to express her feelings when she gets frustrated and school stops being fun. If she doesn't learn to read, she'll be 4 times more likely to drop out of school. And it gets worse. Kids who don't finish high school are more likely to have poor health, become a teen parent, be unemployed, and end up in jail. Not the future we imagined for baby Ella, is it? That's why it's so important for families, friends, and caregivers to talk with their babies, early and often. The best part? It's free. All you have to do is talk with your baby as you go about your day. Not sure how to add more loving words to your day? Talk With Me Baby can help. On talkwithmebaby.org, parents, families, caregivers, and friends can learn more about early brain development, download resources, and sign up for daily texts with tips, video examples, and reminders to talk with your baby. Every parent, every family member, every one of us can make a difference in the life of a child. All it takes is starting the conversation.
So as you can see, it's really important for baby Ella to hear words. The first place she's going to hear words are at home. It's before she gets into school that she needs to have these words and be exposed to words. So how are we going to get to that 20 to 30,000 word a day especially if words aren't your thing. Maybe you're not a big talker. So let's talk about some ways that you can start off with your baby, with your newborn, getting to that 20,000 to 30,000 words a day. The professionals that we talked about that are at that 30,000, they're basically going through their day narrating it. And that would look like this. Your baby gets up in the morning. Good morning, Ella. How are you doing, Ella? Ella, look, the sun's shining today. Maybe it's raining. Baby Ella, it's raining outside. Do you see those raindrops? Now, your baby not talking, your baby's not verbal right now, but they're hearing everything you say. Look, we're gonna have oatmeal for breakfast. Oatmeal's hot. Do you like oatmeal? So everything you do as you go through your day, when you go to get in the car, we're gonna go see Grandma today. Grandma loves you. Grandma makes good biscuits. Just talk about your day, everything that you're doing, narrating your day. So it's very important to do that because you're gonna expose baby Ella to words that she's only going to hear from you. And I would like to say that it's very important that the quality of the words be there. And that's why when we get to reading, we're going to help you with the quality of those words. But I do have to put in a word of caution right here. And that's to limit baby Ella's exposure to TV and to the screen. I know it's a big temptation, and I understand that. I get that sometimes you just have a lot to do in your day, and you need to put baby Ella somewhere where you can get some things done. But I want to caution you that until baby Ella is 2 years of age, she does not need to be exposed to any screen time or television time. Her brain is forming. While I may not be a medical doctor, her brain is forming, and that exposure to screen time does something to those neurons and those connections, and we just need to keep her away from the screen, which would be your phone, your iPad, and the television. Once your baby reaches the age of 2, then you can limit it to maybe 1 hour a day. And then I would say then it's quality TV time, educational TV time, and then co-watch with your baby, because then you're going to get to do our number one thing, which was interact. And if you're watching television, that 1 hour of educational television, then you can interact and you can talk about what you see and you can repeat words because you're trying to get up to that 20 to 30,000 count per day. If your baby is exposed to more than an hour of screen time a day, studies have shown that it interferes with their sleep cycle. And that's another thing that's probably for a whole nother session, is on the importance of your baby getting enough rest and enough sleep to prepare them for learning. But the screen time can interfere with that sleep cycle, and studies have shown that sometimes if they're not getting enough sleep, or if they're getting too much stimulation from the screen time, it could lead to ADD, adult attention deficit disorder, because they're just setting this bar for all of the motion and all of the interaction going on the television, which life does not happen at that pace. And it really does something to their brain, and it kind of sets it at a level where they're going to expect that much interaction and that much stimulation coming from the world. And the world just doesn't happen the same time that most of the television shows and cartoons. If you can just imagine all the activity that's going on, life does not measure up to that, and so a child is going to be constantly looking for that stimulation if you have set that bar there at a very early age. So limit screen time to 0 before they're age 2, and then at age 2 limit it to 1 hour a day. This brings me to my third point, which is read. We started off with number 1, interacting with your baby early and often, and number 2, talking and the importance of saying words and getting to that 20 to 30,000 words a day. The third point's read, and reading is so very important. Studies show that if you read to your child 5 books a day, 5 picture books, interact with them with 5 books, or just read 20 minutes a day with your child, that by the time they get to kindergarten, they will have heard 1.4 million words more than a child who wasn't read to for 20 minutes a day. So you see how much of an advantage your child will be? If you can read to them 20 minutes a day, they walk into the doors their first day at kindergarten, they've heard over 1 million more words than a child who didn't have books read to them. So they're going to be ready to read by 3rd grade just by the fact that they've walked into kindergarten with that many more words. So getting to the word count can be done by narrating your day, but I'm going to show you how you can step that up a little bit by reading to your child. When you read to your child 5 books a day or 20 minutes a day, you're exposing them to vocabulary. And vocabulary and those words that we've been talking about, expose them to words that they're going to see in print. And getting them ready to read and them recognizing those words is going to come so much more easily and so much more naturally when they've heard those words. So they're going to hear them from you because you're reading to them 20 minutes a day. They're going to get to school and all of a sudden the teacher is going to be showing them those words. Well, they're going to be familiar words because they've heard them, and they're going to retain them, and they're going to go right into reading very smoothly, and it's really going to make a difference in their IQ in the long run. So when you're reading to your child, you may be worried that you may not have the reading level that you're comfortable with or that you feel like where you should be. And that's okay. And that's how reading and coming to the library and getting a book can help. If you take a picture book, even if your reading's not where it should be, just opening up the book, flipping through the pages, looking at pictures and talking about what you see is almost as good as reading the words from the page. But just do the best that you can, but point to pictures, point to things that you see. I see a penguin, I see a tree, and look at that boy, he's climbing the tree. All of these words that you're reading is exposing them to vocabulary. So don't worry if your reading level's not where it needs to be. Just do the best that you can, but opening up that book and cuddling with your child and putting them in your lap and bonding them with them, that's going to make reading a good memory for that child. They're going to love the time that they sat in your lap and read. So it's going to associate reading with love and reading with good times with mom or dad. So reading can be very important. And I'd also like to say too, when you're talking to your child in the course of the day, when we were talking about words, there's just going to be some words in the course of your day you're probably not going to say. Like, how many times have you seen a penguin in Trenton? You haven't, have you? So that may not be a word that you would use in the course of your day when you're just talking. But when you pick up a book, it's going to force you to use words and expose them to things that they're not going to typically hear just in the course of a day by you interacting and narrating your day. So books are important because they're going to start kindergarten already having heard about a penguin and seen the word and read the word. And books will do that in a lot of different ways. Another thing I'd like to say when you're reading to your child from a picture book, it's a good interaction. That interaction still needs to be going on. And so when you're reading to your child, stop along the way and ask them questions. We have a really wonderful program here at the library. It's called Primetime Reading. It's a family program where we really show parents and children how to interact and how to read in the process. It's not just one-sided. I think it's important that we read to our child, but stop along the way when you're reading and ask your child to think about what you just read and ask them questions. Children love to ask questions, but we need to be asking questions too. In fact, try this trick the next time your child asks you a question. Turn it back around and ask the question to them and get them to try and answer the question themselves, because it causes them to start thinking and thinking critically. And that's what we hope books will do, is to give them some critical thinking skills along with giving them words and getting them ready to read by 3rd grade. So don't hesitate to ask questions, especially if you see something in there that's thought-provoking. Just stop and take the time to ask your child a question or two. So how can the library help? How can we help you get your child to 3rd grade reading level and to get those 20 to 30,000 words in a day? We have books, and we have lots of books, and you can have access to those books too. All it takes is a library card. You may already have a library card, but if you don't, I'm going to tell you how you can get one. If you live, work, or own property in Georgia, it's free. You can come in with an ID that shows your picture, or you need some form of proof of your address, and that's all it takes. And you can check out up to 50 books a day. And I'm telling you, when you start checking out children's books, that stat can get quite high. We want you to check books out. Check out as many books as you can hold and as many books as you can keep up with, and just read them. And if your child has a favorite book, if you get a stack of books and there's one in there they love, I'm just going to warn you, they're going to want you to read it over and over again. And that's okay. That repetition is good, and that's how how kids memorize. So if they find a favorite book, check it out. You can even renew it up to 3 times. So you can keep that book almost 4 to 6 weeks if you need to get that child excited about reading. So we can help by getting books in your child's hands. We also have several programs that can help. Right now, weekly in all of our libraries, we have a story time. We call it Ready to Read. Isn't that very clever of us? We want you to know that we're helping you get your child ready to read. So if you bring your child, or if you have a caregiver that takes care of your child during the day, have them. Make it an important point to say, I'd really like for you to take my child to Ready to Read at the library. And we're going to read to your child. We're going to make reading fun. We're going to say lots of words in front of your child. And we're going to also have an activity that goes with that story that's going to get them excited about reading, and they're going to love reading, and they're going to get to 3rd grade reading on their level before you know it. We also have a program in our library that you can take advantage of, and it's called 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. See, everything we do is trying to lead up to getting those 1,000,000 words ahead. We want your child to be ready. We want your child to be ahead. So if you come in, we've got a reading log, or you can even take care of this online, but you and your child can play a little competition to see if you can get to 1,000 books before that child starts kindergarten. And with this reading log, you can track it, you can watch it together, you can help your child with maybe treats along the way. If we get to that first 100 books, we're gonna go out for ice cream. We even have incentives along the way, and we'll have a little special recognition at the end of this 1,000 books if your child achieves this success. I also want you to know that Dolly Parton has an imagination library, and Dolly Parton has done something extraordinary. She has set aside the funds and came up with a program that will mail your child a book every month from birth to the age of 5. So every month your child will get an age-appropriate book mailed to you, and at the end of that 5 years, you have a library in your home of 60 books. And your child's going to love those books. And there's professionals Dolly has hired to select these books to make them fun and engaging, and something that you'll have fun reading to your children. I can still remember the books that I read to my grandchildren when they were getting their books from Dolly Parton, and they were funny, and we played and we laughed when we read those books because she picked some really fun and engaging books. And all you have to do is pick it up and open it and read it to your child, and just make that a habit that you do every night. And if you're not eligible for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, because there are just certain states that qualify, there's the FIRST Foundation. And it is a foundation that will cover some other areas, and they also put books into your child's hand. But most importantly, we can help you at the library. Find the Dolly Parton Imagination Library website, help your child get enrolled, and it really is just a few clicks. And the same thing with the FIRST Foundation. If you need help, come into any of our libraries and we'll get your child enrolled. So what does it mean to have your child ready for kindergarten or ready to read? Across the state, so whether you're from Georgia, Tennessee, or wherever, there are standards that a kindergarten teacher is looking for each child that comes in, some things they want them to be able to do to have them ready to receive everything they're going to learn in kindergarten. The very first thing they want your child to be able to do may already be happening if you've been following reading to your child 20 minutes a day and reading 5 books a day and getting your Dolly Parton books. Then chances are your child is already able to sit and listen quietly for 10 minutes. And that is the number one thing that teachers say is helpful, is if you can get your child to sit still for 10 minutes and actively listen to the teacher. So reading your child every night, having them curl up in your lap, that's going to make that possible. They're already going to be used to doing that. Another thing that teachers want your child to know are basic shapes. They're also going to want you to start introducing colors and numbers, and books can help you with that. One of my favorite books is Pete the Cat, and Pete the Cat has a series of books, but what I like about Pete the Cat is if you'll look, this Pete the Cat book, and his 4 groovy buttons. Look, we've got numbers. They're going to talk about 4 groovy buttons, and I can guarantee you in this book, they'll do a countdown of 4, 3, 2, 1, and Pete's buttons are going to have colors, and so he's going to have a red button and a green button and a blue button, and there's going to be so much in this book that if you're just reading it and interacting with your child, you read this one over because it's going to be their favorite. And I'm going to warn you, you're probably going to need to sing in it too, because Pete sings a lot in this book. But if you've read this book several times to your child, they're going to start to learn their numbers. They're going to start to learn that buttons are round and there are other shapes in this book and their colors. And so those are 3 important things that your child needs to know when they start kindergarten. And if you will come and check books out at the library, you'll be able to teach them that without even really realizing it if you pick good quality books. And our library is full of good quality books. So getting your child to reading on their grade level by 3rd grade is very important. Exposing your baby and your child to words, all that's really important, but we can't forget what happens when you do make that milestone and when you get your child to 3rd grade and they're reading on their grade level. It's a beautiful thing, but it doesn't end there. And there's something really important I'd like to talk about now that talks about how to keep them reading on their grade level, because as they progress and they start reading to learn, they're going to need to keep that up. And there's something that happens every year. There's a vulnerable time each year that we'd like to talk about with you now so that you can be aware of it and give you a few things that can help. There's even a name for it, and they call it the summer slide. So school's out, last day of school, and fun begins, and there's lots of fun going on at home. But that's a long spell in the summer where your child may go without learning, without reading. And I do have a video that kind of really tells you the dangers in not reading during the summer and keeping that education going. And it's a long-term effect, and it can be cumulative over every summer that your child doesn't read. And I think it's really important that parents are aware that it exists and exactly what is the summer slide. And watch this video.
Let's look at 2 children, one from a middle-income family, the other from one of the millions of low-income American families. As the 2 kids head off to kindergarten, look what happens. The middle-income child starts out with a 6-month lead. The low-income child is already falling behind because of a lack of access to early reading and preschool education. During their year in kindergarten, in the same school and classroom, the 2 children will learn at about the same rate, so we'll move them both forward 9 months. But look what happens in that first summer between kindergarten and 1st grade. Our middle-income child moves ahead about a month in reading because learning of one kind or another continues over the summer. The low-income child falls back about 2 months. So when school begins again, when they go back for 1st grade, the gap between them has already widened. During 1st grade, again, they move ahead at about the same rate, another 9 months. That next summer, the activities and lifestyle of the middle-income family keep that child moving forward, but the low-income child has fewer opportunities to reinforce good habits like reading, and that child falls farther behind. Then we come to 2nd grade, and again, our 2 children learn at the same rate. But the summer after 2nd grade sets our low-income child back again, and our middle-income child moves forward again, and the gap widens again. By just the 3rd grade, the 2 children are already far apart. By the end of 5th grade, the gap between the children is 2.5 to 3 years. It will keep growing through middle school. So you see, without addressing what's happening during the summer, it is impossible to ever catch up. It's impossible to close the gap. No matter how much high-quality learning goes on from September to June, every year the gap widens.
So as you saw in the video clip, a lot of children start off behind before they ever get to kindergarten, but we know what to do to prevent that. You're going to talk to your baby, you're going to interact with your baby, you're going to speak up to 20 to 30,000 words a day. They're going to start kindergarten with you having read 20 minutes a day to them, so they're not going to start out behind. And they're going to be able to read all during school. They're going to be ready to read by 3rd grade. And when summertime comes, you're going to bring them into the library and you're going to continue to check books out. And you're going to bring them to our programming because we know how important it is to keep your child reading. So we want to make it easy for you. Libraries all over the country during the summer, it's our time to shine. And we will provide programming for free. It's always fun. We bring in programmers and performers that will entertain your child through books and through reading. So if you'll just bring them, we'll help engage them during the summer. They'll read books. We'll give them prizes for reading. We'll make it really easy for them to read. And when they go back to school, they're not going to experience that setback year after year after year. So you can see from this session that we've given you all the tools that you need to ensure that your child is going to be successful. And if you'll remember, interacting with your baby early and often, talking, saying those 20 to 30,000 words a day, and then sitting down and reading 20 minutes a day or 5 books a day with your child, you're going to have a child that's reading by grade 3, and from that point forward, they're going to be reading to learn. And you're going to have a successful child. And that's all you want, and that's all we want, and I think that's our goal, is to see that you have a successful child. So what if you don't have newborn children? Your children are already in the 4th grade and they're struggling and they did not make that mark of being ready to read and reading on grade level by 3rd grade and they're struggling. I think it's important that you bring them into the library and you help them to find books of interest to them. You know your child better than we do, but we can also help pick that out of them, ask them what they're interested in. We can find books on the shelf on their reading level and get them interested in a subject that's exciting to them, whatever that is, whether it's motocross racing, dirt bikes, skateboarding, maybe they have an interest in you name it, we've got it. But it is important that when you come to the library, you can ask the librarians and the people at the library to help you find books on their reading level. And we do have these books that will help your child on their reading level, so it makes it a little easier. But do come to the library for help, and we can help find something of interest to your child. I've worked at this same library system for 30 years, but during my first 5 years, I was the children's librarian. It was my most favorite time of being in the library and during this 30 years. And it's because I got to sit down with little kids who may or may not have already learned to read or love to read, but I could pick a book that I knew would make them laugh, and I could interact with them and I could read, and they would giggle and they would laugh and they would have fun. And that to me is what my goal was to associate reading with fun and laughter. And so the books that I picked out, I remember if it didn't make me laugh or put a smile on my face, I didn't always pick that, but I would pick one where I could be animated and draw them in and ask them questions and have them giggling and laughing. So I think that's an important aspect for you to remember when you're picking out books. Pick out something that you want to read and something that's fun, because you're more likely to read it. And I'm going to warn you, you're going to have to read it over and over most likely, so you better pick out something you don't mind reading over and over and over again. So find fun books, connect with your children, make them laugh, and they're going to end up loving reading.